Good morning, everyone. How you doing? Well, it looks like we are in the midst of bear market rally number 2. In just a couple minutes, we're going to have a special guest, Dan Carlson, back to talk INMB. But first, we got to talk about the major indices and this bear market rally. Unfortunately, we couldn't talk about it yesterday morning because we were doing the RIBT interview, RIBT. But we did cover it in the chat rooms, and at least I nailed it. I hope you guys nailed it too. The bottom, this is how we did it. So you look at the QQQ and the SPY. We knew for a while it was oversold on the RSI and on the weekly. I'll show that to you again. If you go to the weekly chart over here, you'll see that really, really low RSI. Let's go to the 5 years. There it is. You can see the triple bottom there on the RSI. You can see that we got close enough to that 200-week moving average. In the other two cases, right above it, it bounced. So we're looking at all these signals, waiting for a bear market rally. As you know, I thought that bear market rally was going to come when the CPI data came out. Forgot what day that was, but it was derailed. It was derailed because of Walmart and then Target and then Cisco and then Snap, and then Apple kept getting derailed. Finally, what was a signal that said, hey, I think the bottom's in? And there were two things I saw. Right here, this day, you see this sharp move down. This was, I believe, after the Snap warning about the macro environment deteriorating much faster than usual. It was either that or Apple that day. It was one of those catalysts. But what happened, it's off the chart, but if you go to the daily, you can see this low on that day was higher than the low 2 days prior. I think this is a Tuesday and this was a Friday, right? So this low on Tuesday was higher than the low on Friday. And I pointed that out in the chat rooms at the end of the day, that because in the morning I was actually very, very bearish. And I'm like, dude, we could go to new lows. The fact that we didn't go to new lows on those catalysts made me very bullish. And that afternoon, actually, in after hours, I sold off all of my hedge, my PSQ, completely sold off all of my PSQ. The next morning, I went long ARC calls in my IRA, which I still have. So I managed to play that right in my IRA. My trading account's another story. It's very hard to chop, man. The chop and the emotions and everything. I'm not the best day trader, I got to tell you that. But in my IRA, I completely nailed it. And to me, it's very clear. The other signal, that we're looking at, the not hitting the higher low again, not hitting a lower low on that bad news, but the other major signal was the MACD flipping to green. Oh, wow, that's huge, because let's look at the SPY, a little more clear. That signal came first on the SPY, and I told you guys this on, I believe it was Friday. I'm like, MACD is flipping to green on the SPY. I think we're going to get our bear market rally, and you can see how good that's been. Look at all this red here. Look at the first day it flipped green over here. On March 16th, that was the beginning of that vicious bear market rally, and maybe we're going to get another one. We're over the 20 DMA this morning. Maybe we can make a move. I see some resistance at 414, and then you have your 50 DMA at 424. Who knows? Can it be as sharp as that one and take you to the 200 or just above it? Maybe the QQQ was better with this. You can see that it got rejected right at those moving averages here on that last bear market rally. Hold on. Not the right chart. This is the chart I want. Okay, right here. This is bear market rally number 1. Took you right to the 200. So there are a few resistance levels here you got to be careful of. 312, 325. All these key moving averages. But we nailed it. We absolutely nailed it, finding that bottom and the beginning of this bear market rally. It's just a question of how far is it going to go. And you can see this morning, there was some questionable economic data and markets started rallying on it. And that's another sign that we're in a bear market rally. In this kind of situation, any data is seen with rose-colored glasses, because actually what's going on, it's just shorts covering and technicals are oversold, and people are just going to interpret everything positively. Now, is it possible that this is the bottom? It's possible, but I'm still leaning towards a bear market rally. Because it's possible, I'm probably not going to short like I have been on the pops up here. I maybe just take some risk off, maybe sell some covered calls. If I had certain risk assets or things that are overvalued, I may take some of that off the table. And it's also possible, I think it's even more possible, though, that even if this is a bear market rally, a lot of risk assets may have already hit their lows. I think DRIO is one of them, and maybe INMB is one of them. So with that, let's bring on Dan Carlson. How you doing, Dan? Good morning.
Morning, Ben. I'm well. How are you?
Awesome. Doing good. INMB, I invited you on because they had some bad news the other day. And obviously, I don't know the details of this company as much as you, but it's an outsider looking at that headline. That was scary. And I did take some off the table, to be honest with you. I still have a position. So tell us what you think here and why we shouldn't be scared, or maybe we should be.
Well, the headline "clinical hold" always reads badly, but then there's two types of clinical holds. There's one where you have a trial that's ongoing, and you have an adverse event with a patient, and the FDA puts on hold, and it's a real difficult thing to prove your drug had nothing to do with that. In the case of Immune, their trial was never approved. It was meant to be approved recently, and the FDA just is holding off on approving the phase 2 trial because, simply put, the company switched manufacturers and they have some questions that need to be answered around the manufacturing of the drug. So it's got nothing to do with patient safety, which is the most important thing with the FDA to begin with. And basically they switched manufacturers because the company that had manufactured it the first time along doesn't do that. Now it's a couple of years later. And they used a world-class multinational, multi-billion-dollar company to manufacture a drug. They believe most of the FDA's questions were actually answered in the application, that the FDA is kind of overworked and short-staffed, and they'll get through this. They're calling it an administrative issue relatively quickly. Spoke with the company yesterday. They're firmly convinced it's the case. So it is not good news, obviously, but it's not anything resembling the death knell for this product by any stretch of the imagination. And they fully expect to be in the trial in the U.S. Later this year, and hopefully in as few as 2 or 3 months. The trial is actually ongoing in Australia right now.
Which phase trial is that?
This is this is their XPro drug, so it's the phase 2 Alzheimer's trial, but it also the same drug is used in their MCI trial and their treatment-resistant depression trial, which neither one of those has started, and none of them can start until this basically issue is solved. So,
okay, I got a couple questions for you. I didn't even realize that the FDA is looking at the manufacturing process during the clinical trials. I thought that was after phase 3 when they want approval. Is this like a different process because it's just small scale manufacture? They don't need a lot of pills at this point for the trials, right?
The FDA looks at everything. When you apply for your phase 1 trial, they're going to look at your manufacturing, etc.
Do they look at it through the same lens as when you want to get the final approval, or is it different because it's a clinical trial?
It's always it is the same lens. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, you have to make sure that you have an approved process and an approved plant, etc. I mean,
is there a different process when they want to scale this? When it's approved and they have to make it in much larger quantities, is that a different manufacturing process that would then require a different FDA approval? Or once they're okay through these trials, is that basically the same process and same approval for later on?
Well, so it depends on the drug. In the case of Immune, it's going to be the same process. It's a biologic, so you just have to do it at scale, but it's the same process and their same partner can do it.
Interesting. All right. So the other thing that is concerning, I totally get that, and I interpreted it the same way you did in terms of, hey, this is not because of safety or effectiveness hold. It's manufacturing, which is not the end of the world. But what the negative I got out of it is it delays the timeline, and also what does that do to their cash runway and possibility that they have to raise more money. Obviously, one of the most frustrating things investing in biotechs for me is just how long it takes, right? And everything always takes longer than even they tell you to expect. And in my experience, so this is like, oh, now it's another delay, right? So first of all, like, man, how much patience can you have holding on these biotechs for so long? So another delay is just a killer. But then again, what does that do to the cash runway and the possibility they may have to raise more money later?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I mean, the SG&A of the company is not high. I think they got maybe double-digit employees now. Their biggest burn is, frankly, the trials. So a delay in a trial results in delayed burn, right? So they've said all along that they expect to have enough cash to make it through phase two.
That's
Um,
interesting. I didn't think about that.
if this trial gets delayed significantly, that will be called into doubt. If they start the trial in the next couple of months, they still have enough cash to get through phase two. But they have some other catalysts coming up as well. I mean, their MCI trial when that starts, they should have final phase two results from that long before they run out of cash, and they also have their ongoing INKMune program. So, you're still looking at a year from now before they are out looking to raise money, and some significant catalysts in between.
Do you know what the exit here is for them? Do they intend on producing this themselves, or they intend on selling this somewhere along the way before it gets to commercialization?
They'll eventually partner it. They're not going to
Before,
develop
before,
sales and
and that partnership would happen after approval during phase 3. When do this typically happen?
typically after phase two.
After phase 2. Okay, which would be when at this point? If there,
Well,
it's a month
so
is
like I
minimum
said,
hold.
the Alzheimer's trial was projected to be results out, I believe, the end of 2023. So now you got to that's a moving target
Phew.
depending on when they get this trial started, right?
Man, that is tough. That biotech investors are something special, man. It requires a lot of patience. So, if you don't mind disclosing, up to you. But how are you playing? How did you play this drop, or what's your advice for
Yeah,
people after this drop so much?
it's my this is my biggest bet ever,
Wow,
and I bought more stock on Tuesday when it was down. So
wow, you have incredible patience. Wow. So
yeah,
let me ask you. That brings up another question. Your biggest bet ever. When you invest in biotechs, are you just like holding this for you know all or nothing one day, or are you like trying to trade this on pops, or how do you do that? Because that's a long time you got to wait.
I'm holding this one. This is not the typical one
Wow,
for all or nothing.
wow, you got crazy patience.
Well,
Very awesome, Dan.
if you do the homework on it, you'll see that it's actually quite de-risked what their method of action is in Alzheimer's, and as such, your reward is huge, and your risk, in my opinion, is greatly diminished for this company.
Right, absolutely a huge reward, huge condition that needs to be solved, that needs better drugs. So, thank you so much, Dan, for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I say one thing, Ben. If you're
Yeah.
going to do any homework online, just look up TNF inhibitors and Alzheimer's, and you'll see that they're proven to show some efficacy. So.
Yep, absolutely. And Dan has some great research over on his website. What is it? Tailwinds Research.
TW Research Group or Talon's Research directs you there.
Yep.
Also,
And yeah,
Ben, while I got you real quick, there's an interesting story out. Hyundai Bioscience is talking about niclosamide being the best monkeypox treatment out there, and they're comparing it with penicillin.
yeah.
And TFF Pharma's got a product there, so that could be interesting
Oh,
today.
yeah. That's another one that you've presented to us before.
Yeah,
TFF Pharma. Very interesting. All right, great. And
yeah.
also, we did interview you before on both of those on INMB and TFFP. You can find those videos at youtube.com/storytrading as well. All right. Thank you so much, Dan. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Yep. Bye bye. All right, guys. Awesome update from Dan Carlson on INMB. Let's take a look at a few other tickers. Listen, I was going through our watch list here, and a lot of them have crazy awesome setups in terms of breaking key moving averages, 20 DMAs, 50 DMAs. Very, very interesting. And I think it pays to look at individual charts because, again, we don't know exactly how long this bear market's going to last. Is it the bottom or a bottom? We don't know the answers to that. But individual charts that are breaking like 50 DMA and we know the fundamentals are good or the catalyst, like take that story trading holistic view. There's a lot of setups like that right now, which could be very bullish. We may be getting into like swing trade season again, I think, possibly for certain individual names. So let me just show you a little bit what I'm talking about. Well, take a look at Celsius first. You can see we called this a few days ago. I forgot what the trigger was. Honestly, it was on one of our shows, but I said, hey, it could reach the 200 DMA. Didn't break it yet. So look at that touch. I just love these 5,200 DMAs. I actually sold covered calls on that 200 DMA when it touched it. But this is a, fundamentally great company. What happens if it breaks that? And by the way, that's also the 50-week moving average. Wow, double. Oh, I love that. That's it. Both the 50-week moving average and the 200-day moving average are in the same spot. Killer, man. If this breaks above it, I think it's going to 80 pretty quickly. And that could be the start of a swing move. RSA is not very overbought yet, so that's an interesting one. Start looking at those DMAs. SIGA, I just want to bring to your attention because brought this to the radar in the VIP trading room yesterday because there is again resurfacing some catalysts. This one was potential evidence of community spread that came out yesterday, which could signify that there's been a mutation that's causing this to transmit differently than in the past, which is a huge sentiment tailwind for SIGA. So I brought that to your attention here at like 970, 980 or so yesterday. And then this morning, there was some news out. I can't find the full story in my app, but just the headline. European Union has agreed to buy Bavarian Nordic's Invenex Tecoviriat from SIGA in US. So I didn't have time to look it up. You should probably look at that and find out what's involved there. But there does seem to be some increasing data showing that monkeypox could be a concern here. And you just heard from Dan Carlson, another name to possibly look at for monkeypox is TFFP. Okay, a couple other names I want to bring up here. SEAC was up sharply this morning, some 17%, up 9% now. I could not find any news. Okay, I looked very carefully. This could just be bear market rally mode, could be a trader group or something up pushing it this morning. You can see the 20 DMA resistance here. I'm still holding this. And it's a $2 deal. Remember, it's an arbitrage merger arb deal. And yeah, I guess it could get repriced, right? It could get repriced lower, but my cost average is like 105 or something. If it gets repriced lower, is it going to go from 2 to 1? I don't think so. Maybe it gets to 150, 175. So I still like this. And, I talked to management recently and everything seemed to still be on track and on schedule. Not on schedule, but on track. Definitely not on schedule. Waiting for the SEC right now to approve the deal. So that's the story with the SEAC. RIBT, we had that interview yesterday. Unfortunately, it had a bad after hours. It came out with a proposal for a reverse split that there's going to be a vote on. Okay, so that caused the stock to, I can't see it in the charts here anymore, but it went all the way down to 42 cents last night. And I thought that was an overreaction. I was looking at this 20 DMA as support for news like that, which is 58 cents. So when it got to 58 cents in after hours, I started buying and it got to 50 cents, 51 cents. I bought more at that support right there. And then somehow it broke this 200 DMA below 50 cents. And at that point, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I bought, I said, man, I wasn't fast enough, but I bought maybe 20,000 shares at 45 cents. But so I bought tens of thousands of shares between 45 cents and 58 cents. Some of that was overextended, over allocated position. So I already did sell some of that between 57 and 64 cents here. So that was a nice little move when things get overextended in after hours. But I will tell you here, support, I wouldn't be surprised if we test 57, maybe even right out of the gate this morning, okay? And then you can see your other supports on RIBT on that news. PLAB has been amazing. Oh my gosh, we've been talking about this in the chat rooms. Their earnings, absolutely inflection point, blew the roof out of this. I mean, you got to read the report and the guidance. It's absolutely stellar. I'm still holding the position I picked up in my IRA. Unfortunately, I had less than I thought because I had a limit order at the ask for a certain number of shares, and I didn't go back to see how much filled, but only about 40% of that order filled, I found out late last night. So in any case, I'm still holding this because I think this is a $25 to $35 stock, and a whole bunch of analysts came out last night saying the same thing. Came out yesterday saying the same thing. Monday night is our weekly meetup because the markets are closed on Monday. So actually, Monday night we're going to invite Tony on from our community to tell us more about PLAB. He is the one who put it on our watch list. If it wasn't for him, wouldn't have been on my watch list. We wouldn't have seen the news, and we wouldn't have been buying at 16, which we did. So that was great. On PLAB, we'll look forward to learning more about that. Here's another example of these moving averages, which are just working great. The Zoom, I called 105 as a target, the 50 DMA, and it actually broke above it. Look how beautiful. The 20 DMA was resistance, broke it, and look, now we're above the 50 DMA. Look at this 50 DMA. Look how much, look at this beautiful resistance right there, all the way down. Now, it's too much to say it's going from the 50 to 200 to 180, but when you break a long-term resistance like that, that's going to become support, I think. I think Zoom 105 is now support. That's something maybe you could buy the supports on, and maybe 144, 120. You got to find where the next resistance is. But this is maybe an investment. Really cheap. They're growing. I gave you guys a thesis the other day of why I don't think their growth will be impacted too much with the back to work or back to reality play, whatever they call that. So good company, cheap. CLFD. Also, look at this. We're breaking almost breaking above the 50 DMA. This has been on a great run thanks to Chris Tarbert's videos he did for us. If you're not familiar with it, go over to youtube.com/StoryTrading and look up CLFD. A number of really good videos. They're doing really good on their earnings. I did add this to my IRA. Not trading it, just tucked away. Very happy with that position. Here's one you can look at, although it hasn't worked for me yet. Really just a day trade on a catalyst, and I may lose money on it. LILM had some news that they want to co-develop a lithium battery with Livent, LTHM, which is one of the biggest lithium plays, $5 billion market cap. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. But especially because it's been down so much. So I looked at it, I'm like, damn, the chart's been down so much. Now they have a PR with LTHM. This could be good. But when you look at what they do, it becomes clear this is a D-SPAC, probably at $10, $1 billion market cap still, 800 million, probably really overvalued because they're doing electric vehicle planes, right? So they want to make this lithium battery in conjunction with LTHM. So this is that sky and pie in the sky stuff that was, funded by all the excess liquidity. I mean, when are we going to see electric vehicle planes? So I don't know. So I don't know about the fundamentals of this company. I can bet you it's probably not that great. And I don't even know if they're going to be successful long term. So this is just a day trade for me based on the catalyst. If it doesn't work, I got in at 283. So, I may end up losing money on that, but you could look at that. I'm sure there'll be lots of eyeballs on that one today. So that's pretty much it. We are, because we're late, but TWI pointed this out. This has been, the CEO put out a letter the other day reaffirming guidance for something like 200 million EBITDA, and it's trading at or was it 100? I think it was 200 million. It's trading at 1 billion, like 5 times their projected PE. I don't want to be wrong on that. Go check if it's 100 or 200 million EBITDA. You can read that shareholder letter, but this is one that we've been talking about for a long time as an agriculture play, and business is still booming for TWI. I have that in my IRA. And that's about it. You all know about DRIO. I'll just want to share this little anecdote about DRIO. Friend asked me, hey, how much are you losing on DRIO? And I said, I don't know. I'm sure I'm losing a lot. So I said, let me take a few minutes. I looked at all of my trading records over the last 2 years, and I was surprised to find out that I'm actually making a significant amount of money on DRIO, even though this is the chart, right? So how did I do that? I did that because I originally got in at 7, and I did sell some, even though I held on to most of my shares all the way down from 30 to 5, right? I did sell some at 25. And just by selling some at 25, right, and then buying a whole bunch under 5 a couple weeks ago, that enabled me to be deep in the green at this point. So how did I do that? Deep research, knowing the stock really well, knowing when to buy, knowing when to sell. And even when you have a chart like that, you can make money. So that's a really good lesson for everybody, to trade what you know And with that, we're going to say goodbye. If you want these videos in real time, go to storytrading.com and you can upgrade there. We'll see you, the VIPs, on Monday night at 9 p.m. Have a great day.